Big show today. An absolute legend in the documentary space and the director of my favorite documentary of all time, Cocaine Cowboys. I remember carrying around the DVD, as well as our favorite 30 for 30s, The U and Broke. We welcome Billy Corben to Beyond the Lens. Billy, how's it going?
Thanks for having me, Seth.
Where did you grow up, and where did your love of storytelling come from?
I was born in Fort Myers, Florida, on the West Coast, and my family moved down to Miami, North Miami Beach, to be precise, a city with beach in its name and no beach in its borders. And we moved here when I was about 3 years old, shortly after my little brother was born. And so I've been a lifelong Florida native and lifelong Miamian. And I really my enthusiasm for filmmaking started very young. I was about five or 6 years old when I saw a friend from the neighborhood who was on a Sears commercial. I'll never forget. She was riding a bicycle in this commercial, and I got very excited that a person that I knew from real life was on television. And I did not excel in athletics the way my brother did. My brother was a very gifted athlete in his childhood. I, on the other hand, my first at bat at the North Miami Beach Optimist T-ball league, I struck out. So that was the end of my father's baseball dreams, for me. And so I started to do what this friend was doing. And I started after school. My activity was going out on auditions for commercials, mostly because Miami back then in the 80s, just a ton of commercials and modeling and catalogs and just a ton of shit back then. And so every single day there was an audition to go on, and I wound up booking a job on you name a product sector, and I did a commercial for it. Fast food, detergent, sandwich meats, toys, like banks, whatever it was that they were shooting in Miami. I did a commercial for it. And then Ron Howard came to town having auditions for a movie called Parenthood with Steve Martin and Keanu Reeves and Joaquin Phoenix and a ton of incredible actors. And they shot it in Orlando at what would later become Universal, but was just at that point not very much a theme park quite yet. And so I got a part in that movie. And I think seeing Ron Howard, who, as a kid, I watched a lot of Nick at Night, I watched a lot of, so we watched Happy Days, watched the Andy Griffith Show. And here was a guy in Ron Howard that I saw on TV as a kid, who now is clearly a recovering child actor, but now he was like in charge of everything. He was the director, and he was not only a fantastic director, but like his whole set was like a family affair. His wife was there, his daughter was there, his father was there, his brother was there. They were all in the movie, either in small parts or big parts. And it was just like fun. Like that was the moment I think that I realized that maybe if there was a future in this, that would be the future as a director. And so it was really that I think started me on this path.
So take us to the next step. Once you realize that's the path you want to go on, what do you do next?
Well, I mean, at that point, I was still a kid. I was still an actor, but in TV production class in middle school at Highland Oaks, which is in like North Miami Beach, Aventura area, I met Alfred Spellman, who to this day is my producing partner, along with David Sipkin, who I've known since preschool in North Miami Beach. And Alfred and we had a teacher named Sheila Spicer, our TV production teacher, who just identified something in us, a certain kind of drive and interest in production. And she literally handed us the keys to the studio, the TV production studio at Highland Oaks Middle, and put us in charge of producing the daily morning news show that was aired on the closed circuit television in the school. And Alfred and I produced that for, the whole year. And she's the one who really paired us up, who partnered us together. And Alfred's been my producing partner ever since. We started our first production company after that when we were sophomores in high school. we decided that for our community service project that we needed, the hours that we needed to graduate from Miami-Dade public schools, that we were going to do a video. This is back in '94, back when AIDS education was just starting to happen in public schools. And we decided to make a video basically by kids for kids that teachers could show in their classroom that would cover a lot of the AIDS education curriculum. And we produced that during like our spring break or something in like '94. And it premiered at World AIDS Day at a museum in downtown Miami in late in '94. And then that became, believe it or not, our first project that we got a distributor. It was one of the biggest educational video distributors at the time, and it was distributed all over the world and wound up in elementary and middle school classes. And I heard many years later in Miami, teachers were still using it. I don't know if it was on VHS still or if they finally upgraded to DVD, but they were still using it in their classrooms. And that was that was kind of the start of our of Alfred and Dave and I working together as a legitimate production entity as sophomores in high school, and then wound up about 6 years later, 7 years later, we wound up as the youngest filmmakers at the time in the history of the Sundance Film Festival with our first documentary.